If you're in IT, you know there are two kinds of tools: the ones you love, the ones that just work, and the ones that are a constant daily headache. Today, we're going to talk about why, for so many system administrators, Microsoft's endpoint management tool, Intune, seems to fall squarely into that second category. You know, this quote from a sysadmin on Reddit, it just nails it, doesn't it? It really gets to the heart of the frustration that so many IT pros feel. There's this massive disconnect between what a tool for Microsoft should be able to do and what it actually does in the real world. So let's unpack that feeling. Look, the whole idea behind modern management, the reason tools like Intune exist, is to make life easier, right? We're in this world of remote work, devices everywhere, and these tools promise this beautiful, simple, cloud-based single pane of glass to keep everything running smoothly and, most importantly, securely. That's the dream. But for the folks in the trenches, the people doing the work every day, the reality, well, it often feels like a completely different story. To really get a handle on the hidden costs and the daily friction, we're going to follow a sysadmin through a pretty typical day, just trying to get the job done with Intune. Okay, so our day kicks off. Coffee's brewing, and we've got what should be a pretty basic task: get a new employee set up with their laptop. The mission is clear. We're going to use Windows Autopilot, Microsoft's fancy tool for zero-touch deployment, to get a fully provisioned, secure machine sent directly to a new person working from home. It's supposed to be this magical, hands-off experience. Simple, fast, secure. But almost immediately, the friction begins. First, the sysadmin's time just gets torched. Unlike the old days of clean imaging, Autopilot works with whatever the manufacturer put on there, which means our admin is often stuck manually uninstalling a ton of bloatware. Then, you've got a quality and risk problem. Microsoft actually limits Autopilot's initial setup to just 10 apps, so right away, you're forced to make compromises on which critical security tools get installed from the very beginning. And finally, you have the delays. Admins say app installs are a total roll of the dice. Some might work in minutes, but an identical laptop might take hours, or just fail for no good reason, forcing you to wipe the machine and start the whole thing over again. So, we move into the middle of the day. Those deployment fires are still smoldering, and then, bam, an urgent security bulletin hits the inbox. And this is a big one. A new vulnerability is out in the wild, and a policy needs to get pushed to every single device in the company to shut it down. This isn't a get-to-it-later task. This is an all-hands-on-deck, drop-everything situation. But trying to do this with Intune is often described as a game of chance. Sysadmin time gets absolutely burned just trying to verify the tool did its job. One admin told a story where the portal probably reported 100% success, but when they checked, nearly half the machines never even got the policy. This forces you to manually spot check everything, and it just destroys any trust you have in the reporting. The quality and risk are huge. Another admin calls compliance checks a 50-50 call, where a device will randomly say it's non-compliant for its antivirus, blocking the user from working, only to magically fix itself hours later. And the delays? They can be insane. People have seen policies that worked fine last week suddenly break, or new ones that take, get this, a full month to randomly start applying. And this slide right here gets to the absolute core of the frustration. It's about control. With older tools like SCCM, you could issue a command, do this, now, and you could go check the logs and see that it happened. In the Intune world, hitting sync isn't a command. It's what admins call a suggestion, a polite little nudge that the device might get around to acting on, eventually. This whole situation has led to a phenomenon the community has wryly named the Microsoft Minute. One user put it perfectly: when he pushes a policy he doesn't care about, it applies instantly. But when he desperately needs a critical security policy to apply, it can take up to 8 hours for the device to finally check in and get the update. 8 hours. The afternoon rolls in and the day's focus shifts. We're done with proactive work. Now it's all about reactive problem solving. It's time to dig into the support tickets for everything that's already broken. The goal is so simple to say, but it's often infuriating to actually do. A user's application is crashing, a policy didn't apply, a device is stuck out of compliance, and the question is just, why? And man, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? The deepest, most soul-crushing part of being an IT pro isn't just that a tool breaks. It's that feeling of being completely powerless to figure out why it broke. See, troubleshooting in Intune is often just a trail of dead ends. Sysadmins waste hours hunting for clues in logs that are described as scattered, cryptic, or sometimes just plain missing. This creates serious risks, like when devices just stop renewing their security certificates for no reason, and the only fix is to completely wipe the machine. And the delays? Just as bad. Imagine a laptop gets stolen. You issue a remote wipe command, but admins report it can take up to 2 days for that command to actually go through. Think about that. 2 days where your company's sensitive data is just out there in the wind. So, after a day like that, a day spent wrestling with deployments, scrambling on security, and getting lost in troubleshooting, what is the real cost of all this friction? One of the sources we looked at came up with the perfect definition for the state of Intune: just barely good enough. And that phrase is brilliant because it captures the problem perfectly. The feature list looks great on paper, but for the people who actually have to use it every day, the execution just feels incomplete, flawed, and deeply unreliable. And this reality traps admins in this awful, vicious cycle. It starts with the promise of simplicity. Then, you run headfirst into the critical gaps and the flaws. So, you're forced to build these complicated, fragile workarounds with scripts and other tools. And before you know it, you're spending more of your time managing the management tool than you are actually managing your company's devices. This last quote really just sums up the whole feeling from the IT community. It's this sense of disillusionment. The feeling that this tool, which is supposed to be the future of endpoint management, often feels fundamentally unfinished to the very people who have to rely on it day in and day out. Now, this whole explainer isn't about attacking a product. It's about listening to and understanding the experiences of the IT professionals on the front lines. And their stories bring us to a really critical question. As we face down more and more security threats and businesses demand more agility, is just barely good enough really the right foundation for the tools we all depend on?